Got something in the mail yesterday. Isom issue number 2. This was my personal favorite cover. I like the fact that it looks like an old school comic book. Find out, why did Isom quit? I got a different cover though for the graded, signed by Eric July copy of the second issue. And that has Blood Ruth on the cover, who is a really awesome character. And I got a complimentary Isom bookmark. That's really cool. That I didn't ask for, but I used it when I was reading the book, because this thing is a freaking graphic novel. I think it's like 112 pages. It's even bigger than the last book. Coloring and the art is absolutely beautiful. But how was the actual comic book? Well, it was better than the first issue. The first issue, I mean, they got off to kind of a rocky start, a little bit. I said, but you know what? It's sort of like they're first dipping their toe into the water. Let's see where it goes from here. You know, sky's the limit. It's like, it's just throwing all these characters at you in kind of a disorganized way. And there's room to build off of that. And build it did. I mean, this book did pretty much the same thing that the first book did, in that it introduces you to a whole bunch of characters like Gooding. It's Goddyng, I think. He's an accept, that's what they call superheroes in these books, who essentially runs his own like security company, and he's pretty cool character, but he doesn't have shit on Blood Ruth. Yeah, they throw a whole bunch of characters at you, but in this particular book, I felt that it was done a little bit better. It was a little bit more interesting. It also does go into the backstory of Isom. So, and that's what I said in my first review. I said, you know, there's plenty of time to kind of like unfold things. You know, the first book was really just kind of like a marker, you know, like, okay, we did it. And it was a huge success. They made well over $3 million bucks. They made well over $2 million bucks with this campaign. It was a little bit more expensive to buy like the signed copies this time, because they came signed and graded. I mean, that just makes sense. It costs money to grade a comic book. The ending, I'd say a third of this book, is really cool. It's a lot of awesome action. It's very well earned. If there is one criticism that I do have, it's that the writing is not terrific, particularly the dialogue. People just talk unnaturally. You know, there's a lot of exposition in it, and I get that it's a comic book and it needs to kind of like move at a, you know, certain pace, so they have to give you a lot of information really fast. That's just the way comic books are written. But that's why they have like the narration boxes. A lot of what would be in a narration box is being given to you by people. Characters like reiterating things that have already happened, or just explaining things that both of them already know so that the audience can know it. It just comes off as really unnatural. Again, for the first issue, I kind of get it, because it's like, again, total grassroots movement, all odds working against you. There were Reddit groups like trying to ban this. Like, this has gotten nothing but flack. There are people still coming after Eric July for having the audacity to do a book without, you know, a pregnant hermaphrodite Spider-Man, as opposed to just good old-fashioned superheroes. So, you know, I get it, but the thing is, this is the second issue. It is time to up the ante, and I believe somebody, I'll look it up and I'll put the name down below, but I believe it was somebody who did like some of the old Batman comic books from the 90s in particular, is going to pen the Alpha Corps comic book, which is really cool. You know, it's cool that he's getting different writers on board, but he needs help with Isom. He does, because again, after, it's like, you know, the first time, all right, you got all odds working against you. Second time, it's like, okay, it's like you got $3 million bucks off the last one. It's like, make it a little bit more like organic. That being said, the story is actually quite cool. It's kind of like watching the Star Wars prequel movies, honestly, where like you're listening to some of the dialogue. I wish that I could just wish away my feelings, you know, and you're like, oh God. But then, you know, you see the space battle. That's kind of cool. Okay, wow, I see what's going on here. Wow, everything tied into the first trilogy pretty well. Like, the story is good. The story is good. The writing needs a little bit of help. But I'm on board 100%. If I can afford it when issue 3 comes out, or when Yaira or the Alpha Corps first issue comes out, I'm on board, man. I mean, I'm into the Rippaverse now. Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, because you know what? It's something different. It's something new, And especially living in a time that's so oversaturated with superheroes right now, it's kind of refreshing to see, you know, somebody go back to the roots of the thing and give us something somewhat original. Anyways, guys, yeah, Isom issue number 2. It's definitely worth a read. There's also a thing on the Rippaverse webpage where you can donate. It actually costs you less, I believe, to donate to like children's hospitals. I think they'll get a free comic book if you buy it for them, which is good because, again, it'd be nice if kids, you know, had like kind of the old school like superhero vibe as opposed to all this purple-haired nonsense. Anyways, Isom issue number 2. It's not the best written, but it is better than the first issue. The story is pretty damn good. The artwork and the coloring and just the overall like packaging, it's beautiful, and that's all she wrote.